4 years ago, 5 entrepreneurs got together and they were talking about how Marbella is changing. Part of that change was basically because the people that were coming to Marbella, the profile is completely changed. We're looking at talented, experienced entrepreneurs. So this pool of talent, you can guess where the name comes from, basically needed a meeting place and obviously a platform. And that's what they wanted to put together. These 5 entrepreneurs, that's the moment that I got involved in the project. And the funny thing is that you would talk to each one of them individually, and they all had a vision of what the pool will be in the future. And to be honest, there was quite, some different aspects. Everybody had their own touch to it. But what I would say is that for sure, there was one common goal, one objective, and that was to create positive impact in Marbella. And we've been open for about a year, and we're now 260 members, which has happened in 1 year. So I think we've probably become the home of these new entrepreneurs. And what have we done this year? We actually created the verticals. Last year, we launched the vertical for blockchain, and we had companies like Alastria, Binance, Coinbase, etc. is getting involved this year and last year as well. But there is something in particular about this vertical that we're launching today, the agrotech vertical, because it's quite close to my heart. I've been living here in Spain for all my life, and I was here in the 90s when they were cutting water between 9 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock in the evening. And that is quite an experience. So yeah, this part is really, really close to me. And the fact that we had created this vertical, and we were looking to create some other ones in PropTech, FinTech, etc. And then all of a sudden, Elin Bergman comes along. It's like, Christian, it's time for the agrotech to take the next step. So thanks to her input and push, we are here today. So this is the first of hopefully many events related to agro, sustainability, and circular economy. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to bore you more. I would like to introduce you to Elin Bergman, the circular economy queen. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so this is not just my doing. I think I've been super interested in this topic for a very long time. The reason why I'm here is actually Martin. I've been kind of advising you on circular economy and sustainability, and we've been talking about this for a very long time. What I usually do is that I run 2 business networks for circular economy. One in Sweden is called CradleNet, and one in the Nordics is called Nordic Circular Hotspot. And what I do is try to tell these companies why it's so good with circular economy and the benefits of it and so on. I won't tell you any more about that. But one part of circular economy is how to regenerate nature. We have been destroying nature the last 200-300 years, especially the last 50 years. And right now it's having a big impact on the whole planet, but especially Spain. So when I came here and I saw climate change happening in front of my eyes, and also the drought and the water scarcity, that's when I talked to Martin and Christian. It's like, oh, we should do something about this now. How can we engage people? And this is why I'm here and why we are here at the moment. All right. So we have a bit of an agenda. I won't go through everything in detail. You will know everything soon anyway. But we will talk about the challenges. What are we facing right now? We will also talk about the solutions and the enablers, and they're sitting in this room at the moment. It's going to be super exciting. And we will also, of course, welcome everybody who can contribute to this in the end. So please, if you have a technology, if you are an investor or something, we want you involved in this. This is not just something to come and listen to. We want to have you deeply involved in this. And then we will mingle afterwards. All right, first, a bit of a quiz. Who in here owns property? Hands up. Well, 70% maybe? Okay, a bit of a depressing fact to start everything. This is a map. It's a prognosis of how the property value will go down, and where the property value goes down by the year, or to the year 2100, So it's a bit far in the future. And when it's dark purple, that's where it's the worst. Do you see Spain? Do you see Italy? You're not going to be able to live here. Sweden, where I'm from, it's green and nice. I'm happy that I own property there. But this is not a good investment in the long run. So you with the property, I'm sorry. It's not going to be nice. Okay, now to more uplifting information. How to make a fortune in agritech. This is Plug and Play, a very well-known company that did this fantastic report. And according to their analysis, this was in 2020, in the last 10 years, agriculture technology has seen a huge growth in investment, which is 7.6 billion invested in the last 5 years and 1.9 billion in the last year alone. And it's growing fast. So this is something to look at if you're an investor. This is the future. And why is that? Because we're facing enormous challenges. This is a map over how the yearly temperatures in Marbella has gone up. So there's no question of climate change. It's getting hotter and fast. And you know this. You can see it with your own eyes. You can feel it. It's 10 degrees warmer now than it should be in the winter. This also has, like I said before, an enormous effect on Spain. This shows that 75% of the land in Spain is turning into a desert. 75%. Spain used to be a fantastic green, lush oak forest not too long ago. Now it's basically a desert. So we have destroyed the land and the soil the last 100 years or so. It's not just because of what's happening in Spain and what we're doing in Spain. It's of course a global thing happening, but it's affecting Spain a lot. And Spain should be doing a lot of things to change this. And this is a picture of Marbella. So the orange part is where Marbella, the land in Marbella, is also turning into a desert. The green parts is where it's a bit okay still. So the situation here is not sustainable. And the water reserves, as Christian talked about, it's depleted. I mean, it's supposed to be 59% filled up right now, but it's only at 22%, even after the rain that just came, 22%. And it has effects already. I mean, what will happen if there will be water cuts? What will happen if you can't fill your swimming pools? Do you think the tourists will come? Will they go somewhere else? Yeah. So it has already affecting, or is already affecting. And the thing that we need to think about, Spain has been, for a very long time, the food storage of Europe. This is where most of the vegetables, the tomatoes, avocados, and everything come from. To Sweden, for instance, and the Nordics. We can't, I mean, we only have, carrots and potato to live on if we couldn't get the food from Spain. And with the growing population, a global growing population, we actually need to grow 60% more food than we're doing at the moment. The problem is that it's going in the wrong direction in Spain. Already in 2022, there was an estimated loss of the agriculture sector to around 10 billion euros. In July 2023, the Andalusian regional government announced that as a result of lack of water, the region's growth of gross domestic product would be weighed down by more than 2%. So it's already happening now. It's affecting now. All right, so I'm going to stop with the depressing parts now. There are solutions, and there are fantastic ones, and we can change this, and we can do it fast. So I'm going to show you some solutions right now.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Ras John. Welcome to our project here in southern Spain. We have about a 10-20 hectare farm, and we're on the southern slopes of the Sierra Nevada, which are some of the biggest mountains in Spain. So the reason we're putting this video together today, the reason I'm inviting you here on this journey, is because we'd like to share our experiences of what we've been up to here. And I'd like to show you how, if you have the right resources, you can actually grow a forest quite quickly. And here we have behind us a field which is quite a dry deserted landscape. You can see there's not much growing. There's a little bit of retama, a few grasses, but that's basically about it. So we started our first project about a year and a half ago, and then we started another project about 6 months ago. And this is what it used to look like. So just in a moment, we're going to take a journey about 30 meters that way to show you what we've achieved in that. Okay, so here we are, just 30 meters away from where we were before, in that very dry field. And this is what we've achieved after only 6 months. So everything that you see behind me was planted 6 months ago. Like I said, we've got very good resources here. We've got a good amount of water, we've got a good amount of manure in the ground, a good amount of minerals in the ground. This is what we call regenerative agroforestry system, RAS for short. And this is heavily inspired by something called syntropic agriculture. But we're not calling this syntropic agriculture, partly because it's not pure enough. We don't want to upset any professional syntropic practitioners. We've basically got a line of trees, and then we've got 2 rows of vegetables, and then we've got another line of trees, and then 2 rows of vegetables, another line of trees, 2 rows of vegetables. It's like a code that just keeps repeating itself. And all of the lines of trees are planted on contour, so they follow the topographical lines of the landscape.
Yes, 6 months, and they have a forest. So this is not something new. We know how to do this thousands of years ago. We just forgot about it. We started growing crops very, very efficiently, using enormous amount of water, chemical pesticides, and chemical nutrients. And that depletes the ground. It kills the ground. It makes it into a desert, when we should be growing forests like this. And there are small initiatives in Spain, like this one, but they are super small. Also very trendy now to buy depleted land in Portugal, for instance, and do the same thing. But we should do it on a massive scale to really change things. And the beautiful thing is that it sequesters a lot of more carbon. This is what we need to do now. We need to take the carbon out of the atmosphere. It secures the yields. It's actually much more resilient to grow food this way than we do naturally when we just have one crop for for all the fields. It's also much more nutrient-dense food. Right now we have a lot of empty calories. We have overused, like if we grow tomatoes, for instance, we've been doing it for a long time, where we don't have so much nutrients left in the tomatoes. But if we grow regeneratively, you get the nutrients back. It's also resilient to extreme weather changes and weather events, and increase the farm profits. It also improves biodiversity and natural capital. It's also better for the farmers. It's not so stressful for them, and it increased water retention and quality. So it has fantastic things together. I mean, regenerative farming is the future. Otherwise, we will kill the land. I will show you another film. This is the last one. But it also shows some new signs saying that actually there is a way to get the rain back in Spain.
All around the world, traditional wisdom has it that forests bring the rain. Scientists have scoffed at this notion for a while. Forests grow where there's ample precipitation, but they do not cause that precipitation. It comes because of winds that are governed by geomechanical processes which have nothing to do with where the forests are and aren't. Water does not tend to stay in one spot for very long. Most of it ends up running off into the ocean via rivers. Unless there's some way for the moisture from the ocean to come back inland, all of the land's water would be gone very quickly, as would the forest. According to the geomechanical view, moisture gets transferred inland when water vapor is carried from the ocean by winds. Because some of this water gets lost to precipitation, the deeper inland this air gets, the less moist it becomes. Therefore, deeper inland means less rainfall. If this view is true, we should expect to only see forests near the coasts, and drier, more arid areas the farther inland we go. But this is not what we find. Where there are still natural forests, precipitation does not decrease with distance from the ocean. In fact, it often increases, the greatest amount of rainfall being in the deepest parts of the forest, sometimes thousands of miles from the coast. This is unexpected and difficult to explain with the geomechanical view. What on earth could be attracting so much water to a spot so far from the ocean? And why? While there is more water in the ocean than in forests, forested areas have more water vapor in the air. This is because forests, especially healthy ones, have a lot more surface area for water to evaporate off of. Multiple canopy layers, shrubs, moisture-laden ground are all full of water which transpires or evaporates entering the air. As a result, we find much more water vapor in the forest even when there is less total water. The ample amount of water vapor in the forest rises and condenses into clouds, changing from gas to liquid. This creates a drop in air pressure, which allows even more vapor-filled air to rise. This creates an upward air current, which in turn creates a horizontal current closer to the ground. This sucks in air from higher pressure areas, like the air from over the ocean. This air contains some water vapor, which increases the total amount of water in the forest, leading to more frequent rainfall. Essentially, forests create a giant constant air current that attracts moisture from hundreds of miles away. This is how we find so much water so far from the ocean. The forests bring it in. This process is known as the biotic pump, and it shows how traditional wisdom was right all along. Forests really do bring the rain. So as more forests are clear-cut, the more extreme become the droughts, and the more expansive become the deserts. If we want to thrive on this planet, we need to preserve and regenerate the forests.
So there is a way to get the rain back in Spain. We just need to cover Spain with forests, basically. And there are other solutions working together as well, like agrovoltaics. If we can connect this to solar panels where we grow food, it actually gives even more yields, better crop. And we generate renewable energy at the same time. And it also binds more moist into the ground. And you all seen this, you know, the plastic desert in Almeria. It's a horrible place, actually. It's a very extremely dense way to grow food with a lot of pesticides, using a lot of water, a lot of chemical nutrients, and a lot of plastics, and it gets right into the ocean. The beautiful thing about this, though, that not many people know about, is the white plastic is making the temperature in this area a bit lower because it acts like a glacier. The white surfaces reflects the heat out. So it has one good thing. But what if we put solar panels over this instead, where we can grow food sustainably in a regenerative way instead of a depleting way? That would be much nicer. And also, it probably can generate as much power as Spain needs. All right, but we're here to talk about agrotech. And there are so many solutions. And one person that already are using some of these solutions and already growing this way is Pelle. Welcome. It's going to be so interesting to hear you talk about what you have done. Welcome.
Thank you, Elin. Nice to be here. There's a few of you that have visited my farm. Got Jonas here, Carl Fredrik, and some other people. And so we got a before picture and an after picture. This is about 50 minutes inland from Marbella, next to the Caminito del Rey. And this valley, Guadalhorce Valley, has always been a big farm valley. Lots of citrus fruits are grown in Guadalhorce. And why did I end up in Caratraca 5 years ago? I was the founder many years ago of a company called Embracer, which today, not such a funny day on the stock market. But I decided to make a big change in my life. I was very sick, and then I decided to buy an abandoned farm in the middle of absolute nowhere, where prices are quite cheap. You can still buy land at a decent price. A lot of abandoned places where nothing is grown anymore. And as a child, I grew up in various African countries and the Caribbean. My parents worked for the United Nations for many years, and they spent a fair bit of time in Biafra and in northern Nigeria, in Kano, and in Sierra Leone. And the water war started back in the early 70s when Lake Chad started drying out because there was a lot of big projects being done by commercial interest. They were building big dams, they had ideas to grow rice and other things. And Lake Chad worked a bit like in this video, it was quite a shallow lake. It attracted a lot of smaller agriculture, smaller farmers. There was lots of fishing being done. People lived from this lake. But it also gave water to all of Western Africa, all down in Congo on the east side. And it was the big pump of Central Africa. And it took quite a short time for it to actually dry out. And decades after this, what happened in this region was that the growth of terrorist groups like Boko Haram actually happened around this area because there was very little future in growing anything or fishing anything because there was nothing to grow or fish anymore. Yeah? Last few years, it's come back again. The lake has actually started to establish itself again. We came back to Sweden, and then I started doing something else. But I've been living here for 17 years, and I've traveled Spain a lot, and I've seen, not like Christian all these years, but I've seen the droughts and I've seen the cycles happening. And in this village, we're lucky because there's lots of water. We have all the water we want, yeah? Because there's this old mining territory, Sierra Bermeja, west of Marbella and all the way up, is peridotite. It's mountains where the magma never came out through the surface. And when it's eroded, there's lots of interesting mountains with lots of interesting minerals. So there was a lot of mining going on here about 200 years ago. They started, and the boom was in the 1850s, and they struck an old underwater aquifer when they were digging for chrome and nickel. So part of this farm now, we built a massive, it's a 20 million liter water basin. And basically the water is free in this area. You only pay for the maintenance of the pipes. And why do you spend the money on building a massive water basin? You can pay the maintenance for 300 years for the same money. And the answer is, when I started, this whole area was very underdeveloped. A lot of the farmers have been doing the same thing for hundreds of years. Nothing's really changed. And they keep going on the same way without actually wanting to change anything. We started repairing lots of pipes just seeping out water for years and years, which no one ever cared about because there's so much water. It doesn't cost anything. It's very cheap, yeah. And this is the main issue. I mean, a few years ago when electricity started to get expensive, now you can count on an installation of solar panels and it takes you 3 or 4 years to pay it back. And that's fine. People can see ahead 3 or 4 years. But does anyone know how long a business plan is in Japan, for example? It's 200 years, yeah. And the same thing here. You got to make that business plan 200 years long. And when the water starts getting more expensive, I think the only people around here that actually have understood that is probably the golf courses, because they have to buy regenerated water that has been cleaned out. And to clean the water, you need electricity. So it costs them, I don't know, it's hiked up 25% in a year. But they do that, and they actually take care of most of the water they can, yeah. But on the farms, the typical way of farming has been that you open up a pipe and you just take a walk, and then it gets filled up with water, and you're fine. When it started becoming a problem, and you start to have to invest money into it, most of the discussions are still about, we need to build big pipelines, and we need to move the water different places. The problem around here is also it's very mountainous, it's very expensive, you have to dig a lot, which is fine, but everyone would then want the state to pay for it, and no one really wants to pay anything more for the water. Again, the water is very cheap, it's always been considered something which is a right for everyone to have. And in the future, for that to be the same thing, agriculture uses a huge part of the amount of water we spend today. The only place I've seen the last few months, I would say, talking about more efficient water in the consumer world is actually in IKEA, where they're marketing more efficient toilets, efficient water faucets, etc. But there's very little discussion about to make it more efficient. And on farming, all these systems were invented in Israel for the last 70 years. All these patents are owned by Israeli companies. We have implemented them together with the big pond we dug out here. We use a precision watering techniques to only water the smallest amount of water we actually need to. We've covered all the plantation with geotextile carpets. They do a lot of work in different ways. They take away the weed in the first few years, but mainly they also control the evaporation, and then we try to water at night time as well. And we measure out everything with technology. We dug down measuring systems for the humidity. We measure, I mean, we even have a Luftdaten system measuring the NOx levels in the air to see that, you know, how much pesticides and stuff is actually up in the air that comes from, I don't know, car tires, and then they blow away. You can actually grow ecologic food 20 meters away from a main motorway, you know, within the ecologic system, which is crazy because you will have a lot of crap in the air still. But we measure everything. Every single time we ship fruit to Sweden, we do tests on every single part of the fruit. We do laboratory tests to actually see the vitamins, the nutrients, or the leftovers of pesticides in the soil and in the fruit, just to make sure that we can actually stand up and tell the people about, you know, what exactly does things contain. Yeah? And this farm is about 50 hectares in total, but it's a mix of almonds, olives, 6 types of avocados, lots of citrus, weird citrus, strange citrus fruits, strange other types of fruits. And the whole idea of cultivating things in a regenerative way or in a clever way is that they all help each other. If you only grow one thing, it's like only having Embracer shares today, which is not so funny. I have 6 types of avocados, so we can harvest avocados from late October till late July, which means maybe one year is a bad harvest for Hass for some reason, but then we have 5 other varieties to harvest. We can also harvest little by little. We don't have peak periods. We have to pick everything in one day. We can go on and pick little by little every week, and then we set up a logistics in-house system. Everything is sold to Sweden, so it's all an internal thing. And the way of growing almonds in the old days, when there were hard times here in the 70s, a lot of people grew almonds and olives on slopes from the mountains. And the reason for that is that they do not require any additional watering. They use the water that flows through on top of the land and also below the surface, and they pick up whatever water they need. Yeah? But they don't need more water. If you cultivate almonds in Almeria on a very flat surface or in Valencia, it uses huge amounts of water in a very not so clever way. And the product grows fast, but it's not so good. My almonds grow slowly, they're quite small, but they're the best almonds you can buy. Yeah? Same thing goes with all fruits that actually can be grown as close to Sweden as possible, or as close to where you're going to eat it. You will have more nutrients and a better product at the end of the day. Everyone's welcome to come and visit the farm. I've had about 10,000 visitors, mainly from Sweden, since we started. They all thought I was crazy starting. They couldn't understand why anyone would want to go up there to visit a farm an hour from the beach. Everyone is here for the beach, but then they get tired of the beach, and then they want to do something else. But the idea there is to give people some inspiration. It doesn't cost anything to visit. We give you a cup of coffee, take a walk around. And it's a way to actually be able to explain to people, why is this basin a good thing? Well, it's good for the birds, it's good for fire extinction. If there's a fire, they can actually come and pick up water from the basin as well. And again, I don't need to build a big basin, you know, but we use less than 400 liters of water per kilo of avocado, as an example. The olive trees doesn't get any water more than the rainwater, neither does the almond trees. But you can actually, you know, bring this down. And my challenge today is to try and decrease the amount of water all the time, yeah, by growing different things together. In the lines in between, we grow lots of, you know, mangold and salads and all sorts of things. We plant lavender for the bees. We try and create. We select all the weed. We try and have oxalis, what's it called in English?
The yellow one?
Yeah, the yellow vinaigretta. It's oxalis. Det heter getoxalis på svenska. It's the clover. It's basically the best plant in the world to actually captivate nitrogen from the soil. Yeah? So when you want to select weed, you can do that, and you can try and get more of the good weed, and you can try to take away the bad ones. But there's ways to help with all these things. And we have we have big poles for birds to try and create a whole system with birds that actually help with the cultivating things as well. It's a whole ecosystem in a local place, but there's lots of land in Spain, and there's a billion places in this country where you can build similar things on a pretty large scale. Yeah? There's another Swedish guy in here that has a similar thing in Portugal, so maybe one day he will come and tell you about that as well.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Are you profitable?
No.
Will you be?
Yes.
Okay, good, because I think that's the main thing. I mean, we can't just do this because of charity. So,
basically, we built an internal system. We ship everything in our own circle to Sweden. We sell it to end consumers. We try to attract only people who really want to have the highest quality of ecological product they can get here, but people who really want to know what they put in their mouth. Yeah. It needs a volume, obviously, and it's a big spend. It's like making an Embracer video game. You know, you need to spend a lot before you even have any income. But it's okay. It's not a massive loss year to year these days. It's actually it's a decent operation. So yeah, we're almost there. It's lots of fun as well.
and you're doing the right thing. You have regenerated part of Spain, so that's amazing.
Also, last bit, the neighbors, when we started, it was chaos. You couldn't actually drive a car on the road here. These days, probably about another 60 farms on the same road have been revamped in some way. They built their own little water basins. They built they cultivate new things. We started planting Sanguinello blood oranges a couple of years ago. Everyone now is planting blood oranges. When we started, they thought, you're doing that the wrong way, and the hole isn't deep enough. But they copy, they get inspiration, they copy, and that's important also when you want to build up cooperatives or get a whole village or city. You need the backing of local authorities, you need the backing of local neighbors to actually help you out. Yeah. It's important, and it's getting there. It's taken 5 years. It's more difficult because you're a foreigner, but you get there.
In 5 years, that's amazing. Thank you so much. And also, the almonds and the figs, it's yours. So what we're eating, it's Pelle's. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, and now we're going to hear some other fantastic people talk about your solutions for agro-environmental conservation. So Cecilia and Julio, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Hola, hola, hola. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. We are really excited for participating in this event. Thank you, Elin and Christian, for thinking of us, for lead this vertical together with SACU. And our company, Innovación Activa, are created recently. This is our first presentation in public. And we are so interesting, and we are aim about the problems with the nature. For this question, we decide to create our company. Julio wants to explain our project, what we do.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Elin. Thank you, Christian, for giving us the chance to be here. We are very happy and proud to be here and to be part of this vertical. Yeah, we will be responsible for leading it. We hope that we have a big chance to do important things here. Yeah, in the agrotech. So thank you very much. Yeah. Well, our company has been very recently created. I started with the idea many years ago about the problems that Spain has and many countries with water, with waste. If we see the figures, it's logic that we need to find solutions. Yes, we believe that Spain is far away from having short-term solutions. Yeah, the solutions that are being planned are on the long term. Yeah, the government has been waiting to give these solutions. And well, this is one of the reasons why we decided to come together with Cecilia and with Nuria to try to be part of the solution, yes. I come from another sector, from the pharmaceutical sector. I have been CEO of my company for several years. We have been trading principally other products. Cecilia is part of our team. Yeah, she is dealing mainly with marketing. She has a very good relationship with different stakeholders in the industry, both private and public sectors. Yes, so she will be representing us with these stakeholders. And Nuria has a very long experience in the agro world, agrotech. She has been working in innovation, in different agrotech companies. We decided to create our company to try to give solutions, to the problems. Both agro, we are also working with some water companies. Yeah, our idea is also to work with waste companies. And we are commonly developing already with some of the companies some innovation solutions, yes. We are working already with Eco1. This is a Czech company that they are making water generators, that make water out from the humidity of the air. We are putting them together with a Spanish company that is Active H02. This company works with electrolysis, So we are starting a project of innovation in order to put both technologies together, and this will save a lot of water in many industrial processes, mainly for the food industry. We are also working, we've recently done an agreement with Caja Marinova. They are very active also in Almeria, yes, with many companies that deal with water, with different technologies. So, our idea is to integrate many of these players to give better solutions. We know that there is a lot of work to be done. We want to bring also other technologies from abroad, and we think there is a lot of things that we can do here together, yes. We are also developing with our partner from a lawyer company a database of lands, so we will check in the area which lands are suitable for farming or for other purposes that we find that can be interesting for the project. So, this is a brief introduction. We will be here. We will be taking this ahead in the pool. Thanks again to Ellen and Christian. And we welcome anyone that wants to be part of this, to come and work together with us. Yep.
Thank you so much. Let's see if this works better. Welcome to the other speaker who will talk about another very important part of the agrotech that we already kind of mentioned, but it's so nice to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you. Not sure where you got that photo from, but yeah, I was younger once.
I should have introduced you. You're Martin Tai, the CEO of Mariposa Energia. Sorry.
Okay, I'm Martin Tai. I'm the CEO and founder of Mariposa Energia. Thank you for having me. I have 5 minutes and I'll rattle through those 5 minutes. But I want to talk first and foremost about solar. Solar is not a new technology, but solar in Spain has certainly had, should we say, a different evolution than in most parts of the world. It won't come as a surprise for me to say to you that Spain is corrupt. Yeah, instant reaction with yes. Okay. When I first moved to Spain permanently in 2016, I had a house built. I had all the infrastructure put on that house to have solar panels because I came from a solar background in the UK. Then I arrived in Spain and was hit with a sequence of events that I just found totally incredible. I learnt about a thing called the sun tax. Any of you had any reference or familiarity with that? Basically, at that point, you had to be a real tree hugger with no idea about investment to put solar panels on your roof, because there was this thing called the sun tax. The sun tax came about through corruption. In the Mariano Rajoy era, the big boys in Spain, the Iberdrolas, the Endesas, the Repsols, the Cepsa, the old boys club, formed together and enabled this thing to be created called the sun tax. Their theory was very simple. If you start producing electricity yourself, you're not going to buy it from us. So therefore, we will make it very difficult. And that was only repealed in October 2018. So that's not that long ago. And here's an interesting fact. You know, in January 2019, the whole of Spain had less than 1,000 rooftops with solar. Compare that to, for example, Germany, where the weather is certainly nowhere near as good, not as bad as Sweden, but still not good. There were over 1 million rooftops with solar. Anyway, Spain has now done an about turn and is now green, in inverted commas, and wanting to be seen to be green. And so the shackles are off. So whereas not long ago, if you put solar on, you could not export to the grid any surplus, for example, and you paid a tax on what you actually produced, all that has now gone. Okay? So it's a different world. But that's only recent. And out of my 2 slides that I was allowed for tonight, I've introduced this one. Money and CO2. And they have to come in that order. Despite how green we pretend to be, unless it makes financial sense, very seldom do we invest in green technology. And as I think Ellen made reference to before, it's a fact. Return on investment, typically, within a residential and a commercial environment, is typically 3 to 4 years. Now that's staggering. For the very simple reason, I mean, probably the same reason most of us live here, there are 320 days a year with sunshine, compared to England, where I come from, where there's 320 days of rain, or Sweden, where there's 320 days of darkness, or whatever it may be. We live here for a very simple reason. Interesting, you started the precedent of getting people to put their hands up, Ellen. Could I ask the audience here to raise their hand if they live somewhere with a roof? Not many homeless here, are there? So, okay. So that was nigh on 100%. Could I ask those same people here to raise their hands if they have solar on it? Less than 10%. There's some clever people here, or I assume there is. So you can see the opportunity. Solar is the most cost-effective renewable energy that exists. There are other forms of renewable energies, we all know, be it wind, be it whatever, but solar is the most cost-effective. It's also exceptionally clean. And if you're producing clean energy, you're not buying or using unclean energy. Very simple equation. So those of you who haven't done solar, obviously speak to us because we're the best on the coast. But, you know, solar is a no-brainer, to coin a much-used American term. And as you save money, at the same time you are reducing your carbon footprint. Okay. I don't even have to press buttons here, do I? And solar is very simple. You know, whether it's for a house, whether it's for a commercial installation, or whether it is for agro purposes, solar can be adapted to be put anywhere. The only difference between these slides is they're all solar panels. Solar panels work seamlessly, without noise, without irradiation. They produce electricity. The only thing that sometimes varies is the way in which they are installed. They can be on a roof, they can be close to the ground. The only difference when you go higher up is structure. So solar works. It works for a longer time than we will in this room be alive. I know when I went to primary school, which is a longer time than most of you ago, do you ever remember seeing those early pictures with the big satellites with the shiny arms? Must be some people as old as me, yeah. Well, they were solar panels on satellites that went up in the 60s, and they produced electricity, and they are still there. You know, we all use calculators. Where do the batteries go? They don't. They have a little tiny solar cell that you can pull it out of a drawer and it works. So solar is a very simple technology, and it can be used to produce electricity. Electricity is the common requirement for all the things that you've discussed tonight. If you're in agriculture, you need to circulate water, you need to pump it. What do the pumps run on? You're not going to have ecological farming running off generators. It comes, or it should come, from electricity. So solar is a technology that can be used for all purposes. And as a company, we're happy to be involved and get involved with whatever it takes to take it that next step. So, thank you for your time. 5 minutes.
Well done, thank you. And Pelle also has solar panels on his farm, and he uses it for water and his own use. Okay, now to other technologies. We have optical satellite farming data. This is so interesting. And we have Nils Helsit here. He's the co-founder and CEO at DigiFarm, and you will tell us everything about what you do. Welcome.
Thank you. Actually, thanks so much for having me. I'm very excited about this initiative, so thanks to Ellen and Christian for pulling it together. So I'm Nils, one of the co-founders and CEOs of DigiFarm. We're a Norwegian-based ag tech startup. We started in 2019, and I'm also a farmer myself, so for me this is kind of exciting itself, the process and journey. And I was just thinking about this when I saw the pictures of the farms earlier, that I took over my family farm in 2014, and I remember we used to use orthophotos, these aerial images of the farm. And I remember 50 years ago, my granddad used to run it. It used to be like, pastures and different crops and potatoes and berries and everything. And you look at the orthophoto now, a few years ago, and it's all one crop, so I'm a big fan of this regenerative movement, and I think it'll be great. So let me tell you a little bit about what we do. We started in 2019. And we're part of the imaging and kind of monitoring part of the digital agriculture side. And basically, we take satellite data from Sentinel-2, which is European Space Agency publicly freely available data. And we actually do this kind of deep neural network model on it, which means that we increase the resolution from 10 meter to 1 meter. And enables us to detect boundaries, so field boundaries you can see here. And then we're able to tell you a little bit more about the actual productivity and the crop and everything else that goes on it. And I was trying to think of a couple of use cases, of course, on how this kind of fixes into the regen and sustainability side. And of course, a big movement in the digital ag side is now grow more with less. You think about productivity zones. So some of our clients will detect boundaries and will detect productivity zones, which means they will look at satellite imagery over 6-7 years, and they will create these basically color-coded zones, which you'll be able to do variable rate seeding or fertilizing with, which helps you reduce your cost and increase your yield potential. And then, of course, on the regen side, we work more on the verification side. So for us, we sell data to clients that we're able to tell them when there was a tillage event, for example. So maybe I'll back up, but when we talk about crops, typically regen farming, we talk about tillage, reduced tillage, crop rotation, and cover crops. And of course, a lot of the market out there, when you talk about soil, water credits, and everything else, the voluntary market, you need to do verifications on it. So what we do is we're able to detect the boundaries and then be able to detect these events that happen through the year, which then our clients will use to be able to run their claim analysis and verification. I hope it's not too complex, but it's Yeah, and we also mentioned maybe we don't sell anything directly to farmers, but we work with the agricultural kind of value chain. So typically anything from pre-production to post-production. So we have an API that our clients will integrate the solution. They'll basically query the data to our database and implement it into their workflow, so to say. So today there are 60 of us. I'm the only one here in Spain, but we have 50 clients, and we work mostly with the kind of agribusiness side, but also governments. And this is probably a nice segue to have Matti talk about how this relates to crop insurance. Oh, sorry, you wanted to.
Sorry, it didn't work. Thank you. And you're doing my work for me. You're introducing Matti, and you're going to talk about insurance to de-risk farming operations. And I think this mic is better.
Better?
No. Yeah. And also, you're the founder of Frontera Crop Insurance. Welcome.
Right. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. And thanks, Elin, for putting this together. I think, firstly, Niels may have oversold what they're doing. I'm also a happy resident here at the pool. So thanks, Christian, and Elin again for putting this together, but also creating this, great place. It took me all 3-4 months to actually find Niels, which is 5 meters from my office back there. And then it took me another 6-7 months to go through all the satellite companies in the world, basically, who are providing services for agriculture, and realize that the best one is literally 5 meters from my office. So I'm going to talk a little bit about two things. One is the farmer's view on agriculture and the risks and future as it holds. I have a luxury of having been part of front row seat in the agriculture for the past 10 years. We co-founded a company over 10 years ago that became one of the largest biological input companies in the world. And by biological, I mean nature-driven products. So we did anything from biopesticides, also here in Spain, to biostimulants, biofertilizers, nitrogen-fixing bacteria, gene editing to create new drought-tolerant genetic events. And last year we did about 500 million in revenue in the biological sector to try to tackle climate change and all its adverse effects. So I've seen the future in a way that it's not really bright if you look from external perspective, but at the same time there are many solutions out there to assist the farmers, right? So the farmers are the most resilient creatures in the world because they just go out and they sow, they plant, and then they hope for the best but prepare for the worst. And why I actually left and transcended into moving to Spain and starting a new business was the idea that farmers' risk-taking ability is almost at all-time low, right? There's massive amount of capital coming into agriculture, never seen before. The whole industry is booming, right? Technologies are spawning from right and left. You have all the opportunities to either create a company, invest into a company, make money, start a farm, bring out new technologies. But if you look at the mainstream agriculture, the actual risk-taking ability and access to finance, capital, and the means to take those risks are almost at all-time low. And there's a bridging needed in the form of whether it's technology or whether it's capital, but real bridging towards the farmer, right? Frontera as a word means border, and why I chose the word that it should describe the border between impossible and possible. Because none of us can see the future, what it looks like from kind of ag industry's view, right? It looks pretty impossible right now. But then when you look at the solutions, it starts to look more possible, right? So then looking at the farmers, farmer today basically has 3 ways of de-risking its operations, okay? First one is inputs, okay? What seeds do I use? What do I plant? What fertilizer do I use? How do I, do I build a water basin and business plan for 200 years? What do I put on my fields, right? That's one way to de-risk for farmers. The second one is financial instruments. So a farmer today can sell its crop in a way that is unimaginable. So you can basically choose the price, you can use futures, you can farm smartly like Pelle is doing, that you have 5 different kinds of avocados so that you're hedging your risk, but the actual financial instruments for field crop farmers are vast, okay? So these 2 pillars of the 3 available, right, have actually contributed to the ag sector. Inputs is inventing all the time new ways for the farmers across the globe to come up with solutions to tackle the adverse effects, and obviously, being profitable at it. Financial sector has created futures, ETFs, the whole kind of market around commodities, and even on the smaller side, financial instruments to really help with the working capital on the farmer side. Now, what I realized that insurance as an industry hasn't done a lot, right? It's very stuck, and it is one of the three main pillars for farmers, right? How do I ensure my operations? How do I deal with the risk where everybody expects me to farm and put food out there? The way for the insurance companies is not where it's supposed to be today. So I think, to Niels' point, and what I'm working on with my team, is where Niels is providing critical information, is basically giving the sky to soil information on the farm. You'd be amazed today what we can do with the satellite imaging, especially the improved satellite imaging, what we can get from companies like Niels, and how we can assist farmers in predicting the outcomes, in being able to hedge their bets, in them being able to plant at the right planting windows, use the right products. At the same time, we believe that insurance should be key in adopting new technology, right? And here I'll give you an example. So we're talking about drought, which is probably the main component of all the negative outcomes that may happen in the future, right? So new technology on farm, and this is an example of my previous company's work, this is a sunflower field in Sevilla here in Spain. You've all seen the pictures of the beautiful sunflower fields. Then you've also seen the picture of Elin's presentation on the sunflower field, right? So the sunflower that has been growing in Spain, it's developed to be really resistant in drought tolerance, right? So it's become drought tolerant to the extent that there was a gene found in that sunflower that we, or the previous company, were able to extract from sunflower, create that genetic event, and input it into wheat. So this is a picture from Argentina where you have the gene from the sunflower put into wheat, and then you have the wheat without the genetic event, right? And this is an extreme drought situation in Argentina. So the technology is out there, right? So everybody asks that, why isn't it getting adopted? Everything comes at a price, and I think that insurance is one of the critical missing links for the farmers to be able to adopt the new technologies. Then you have reduced premiums. I mean, insurance industry works on premiums, right? But if you combine all three aspects, which is the inputs of new technologies and the companies providing that, you have new kind of information which allows you to better calculate your risks. It allows for the farmers to actually have reduced premiums, because you can be more accurate in your risk assessments and you can assist the farmer in doing better choices. And again, this all spawns from the fact that the insurance industry hasn't really done anything for the farmer. They just calculate the risks. That's it. But there's much more that you can do. And then the fourth, and maybe also the most important thing, is unlocking working capital. Because when you get all those parameters right, when you can estimate the risks, when you can actually predict your yields, right, through NDVI and satellite imaging, soil moisture, all the tools you have available, you can actually start predicting today, already at half season, by 50 to 70 kilogram accuracy of how much yield a field here in Sevilla will yield, right? So previously, farmer had to go out and sell their crops, so sell their future. But if you have good enough insurance tools, you're able to also, hopefully, from a bank partner, to unlock some of that potential, because you can also use insurance as a leverage to start financing your farm. So that's the piece we're working, but I also wanted to say that, having had that global view in agriculture and kind of the issues, I've seen the worst drought ever in Argentina. I've seen the worst drought ever in Brazil. I've seen the worst drought ever in California. And now I've seen the worst drought ever almost in here in the coast. So one thing is to look at the map of Spain, right? But we're not alone in this. Everybody is struggling with the same issue. Whether or not the property values is going up or down, but it's a really good metric. But we're not alone, and there's a lot of technology spawning. So I think it's nice to see so many faces here. in this vertical, and very nice to have you had organized this. Thank you.
So we heard of so many fantastic initiatives and technologies, and I think we all need to hear more about everything that's out there. Now we're going to kind of talk about the, what do you call it, utopia. Yeah, and we have Martin Wettergren. He's also co-founder of the pool and working for Soltech. And you're going to talk about Northvolt to end water crisis. Super exciting.
What does that mean? Hi guys, thank you. Wow, blown away by all the knowledge that was shared here. That was an amazing image there from Argentina. Really inspiring. Okay, so anyone know what Northvolt is? Anyone? Hands up? 10%? 5%? Good, okay. So I'll tell you a story. I think this must have been 2015 maybe. I had lunch with a guy named Peter, a Swede. I hooked up with him, reached out to him on LinkedIn. He had just gotten off his job as COO with Tesla, the electric car. So he's working next to this guy, Elon Musk, for a bunch of years that wanted to build, yeah, you know the story, right? So, but Peter told me a story. I was trying to get him onto the board of my company then, but he's like, I have a pretty cool idea that I want to preserve energy. I think this is going to be a huge thing. Elon is building a bunch of, electric cars. They all need batteries. I mean, and there's not even this much production capacity on the planet to do this. So fast forward, Peter built this company called Northvolt. Northvolt is about to go IPO on the stock market. I think this year they're talking about. It's probably going to be the top 3 biggest one in Europe, as of yet. So my idea, when hearing all this stuff and meeting Elin and reading the articles about droughts and there's no water, this is the next Northvolt. There can be 10 Northvolts to cure the water crisis, basically. So I'm a startup guy. We have a tech hub. We have a bunch of entrepreneurs and people with money, and obviously tons of ideas. The solution is there. The solution is not the boat that they're planning to put in Malaga. So I think we need a private initiative. We need hundreds of them that will make money and that will solve the drought, basically. So, yeah, this has already been done. That's usually like what you look at, right? This thing is, I just Googled this thing, by the way. It's easy to find. There's a Moroccan startup. They raised €1 million from a French VC, and the business case is pretty similar to Pelle's, just that they packaged it with a PowerPoint and put a sticker on it that you didn't do. You can do that too, Pelle. Make some money from investors. So that's what we want to do tonight. I've already spoken to one guy that wants to be CTO, another one wanted to be CMO. We need tons of teams, right? To start initiatives to solve the drought and to build a Northvolt, but for agua. So, and you've already spoken about this. There's so much money to be made. You can sell the crops. The crops is more valuable. It's at a higher price tag because it's actually good for your body and healthy. It uses less water. The list goes on. You'll sell the energy. Martin, where are you, Mr. Solar? There needs to be some lobbying, it sounds like, so we get, 7.07 euro per kilowatt or something. It's a cheap price in Spain today, yeah. We need to get this price tag up so it's more valuable to sell the solar. And then carbon credit could be one option. But anyway, the business case is there. So the offering today, I spoke to Chris before from the pool. We have a house. We have entrepreneurs, we have investors that want to invest, so we need teams. We need a team. So approach me, Elin, Cecilia, Julio, and we'll talk about how we can put together a startup, and we'll help you raise funds with the investors through the pool. And you get to sit for free at the pool, and we'll start a bunch of Northvolt, but for agua, right? So, this could be, it's not just for Spain. I think we proved that it's It's a bigger issue, yeah. But first, we'll start in Andalusia. I mean, obviously the issue is pressing, right? So it needs to happen yesterday. But that's basically it. And then I think Elin will take us home and wrap it up.
Thank you, Martin. Yeah, I hope I come back in a year and we're all done and we save the planet from water crisis. But I just wanted to kind of end up what you already said. There are so many positive effects if we get this done. We get the property value increase. So you guys that had your hands up and it was like, oh my God, my property value is going to go down. Now we can get it back up and keep it up. But also water safety, which means that we will also have tourism safety. That's an income stream, right? We need revenue safety. Renewable energy, revenue streams, food safety, resilience, and revenue streams, of course. And just some by-effects. It's good for the climate and biodiversity. So why aren't we doing it already? We just need to scale it up really fast and like on a normal scale. So what's needed is a stellar team. We need depleted farmland expertise. Anybody farmland expert person in here? Hands up? Oh, maybe. If you know anybody, let us know. Regenerative farming expertise. You saw how to farm, not the old way. We need the renewable, old, new way. Water and nutrient efficiency technologies. We need high-rise solar panels technologies or any solar technologies. Other agri-tech technologies also connected to batteries. We need to sell the food we produce on the land with the higher value. And then we need funding. That's what we need. So if you are any of these people, that's what we need to get together in this agri-tech vertical. And if you are one of those persons that want to join, we need to get you guys up so you know how to talk to. So, yeah, welcome. So, Cecilia, Julio, Saku. Yeah, these are don't email me, please. Email these guys, and they will be here afterwards. So please, 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 take a glass of wine in the mingle, go and talk to them, and then we will see everything that will be coming out in the coming months with the agri-tech vertical. That's going to be so exciting, and it's so good to see that you will be running this in the future. So to just end up, so I know everybody wants to mingle, but we have a QR code. So if you want to sign up, you can stay. You can just, we just need your email, contact information and everything. And now it's time for mingle, but sign up on the QR code. And thank you, that's it.